Hi, internet. I want to make a tier list with all of the horror games that I played in 2024. All of these games released in 2024, and I played them in 2024. And so we're gonna make a 2024 horror game tier list. I made one on TikTok. Sounds so weird to say because I'm not really a TikTok user normally, but I posted all of these opinions on TikTok, and I figured I would want to actually talk about it and kind of justify my choices. We could have a discussion and see what y'all think, because I think it's fun. I love talking about video games. It's like my favorite thing to do. So first we have Decimate Drive. I gave Decimate Drive a C. It's probably at the higher end of a C. I was kind of going between a B and a C because I really did enjoy Decimate Drive. It's a very fun game. Running around trying not to get ran over by cars. That sounds so weird to say. It was comical. It was actually really funny. I did enjoy my time with the game, but it was kind of short, I guess, and the story was a little bit lackluster. Not very story heavy, not very long, still fun, but you know, it's not like the best I've ever played. Where is all the other? I want S, A, B, C, D, E fixed. Okay, I don't have any F. I definitely have an E game, and I think y'all already know what game that would be, but I don't have an F game, which I'm very generous not giving that certain game an F. But we'll get to that. Finding Frankie goes on A because it's freaking fun. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I love the whole Fall Guys horror game idea. It's a little bit fresh, you know, like we haven't really had a horror game like that before, so it was nice to play. The controls were a little bit hard to get used to, and I think I had a gripe with there was one level, the one with the phone guy. hello, the guy with the phone head. Henry Hotline. His stage was kind of annoying in the dark because of various reasons. Watch my video on YouTube and you'll see why. I think that that was pretty much like my only real issue with the game. I just had a whale of a time. I loved it. The music was really good. The final boss music especially, it was a bop. I loved it. I think they're making a second one because there was like, it ended on a cliffhanger, I would feel. So maybe, we'll see. Kinito Pet. Kinito Pet goes on S because it's a great game. I think people are gonna argue with me on this, but it was good. Okay, so the way I'm kind of ranking these games is like indie horror I compare to one another more than I compare indie horror to the bigger games that are not indie. So like Silent Hill, for example. So I'm not comparing, let's say, Kinito Pet to Silent Hill 2 because one of them is indie and one of them is not. But I would compare Kinito Pet to, let's say, Finding Frankie and Decimate Drive because those are all indie. Also, I would compare the games like, let's say, Amanda the Adventurer 2 because it's a sequel. I will compare that to the first Amanda the Adventurer. Anyway, Kinito Pet is on S because it's a good indie game. Kinito Pet was just a really interesting product. I love the aesthetics. It's the kind of technology I used to grow up with. You know, I grew up in that era with mascots like that, when the computer games looked like that, when PCs were built like that. And it was really cool the way it broke the fourth wall and all that. I think my favorite thing was when you could see a face appear on your second monitor, and when you had to play hide and seek with Kinito Pet, I was fucking terrified. Again, I know people are gonna argue with me on this, but this is my opinion! Shinkansen Zero, I would put on B. It's a pretty solid game, but it's not really anything I haven't seen before. It kind of came up in the whole Observation Duty Exit 8 era, and all of that had obviously been done. You know, there were a lot of games that were doing the same thing. Shinkansen Zero changed it a little bit by adding a story, which was nice, and the story was pretty interesting. It wasn't like groundbreaking or anything, but it added a bit to the whole gameplay loop of trying to find anomalies. Not the best game I've ever played, but it was pretty solid. It's really hard for me to pick a rank for most of these games, for most of the indie horror games at the very least, because I want to put them between. It's like I want to put it in the middle of B and C, for example, but I'll probably rank them on their tier as well. So like the one I like the most on the C tier, for example, will be all the way to the left, and then the one I like the least on the C tier will be over here. The Last Monday, Garfield horror game. I'm actually putting it on B. This is another one that I'm kind of on the fence about. Like, I want to put it between B and C, so probably lower B. It's a pretty solid game. All of these are pretty solid. Well, not all of them. Almost all of these are pretty solid games. Most of them are going to be pretty high. I don't think I have a single one on D, but we'll get to that. The visuals were neat. I like taking Garfield and turning it into something sinister. I think the story was actually pretty solid from what I can remember and had some layers to it. I loved the kind of twist that you thought John was the bad guy, but in the end, he was actually the good guy all along. And just stuff like that. I don't know. It's a fun little game. It's pretty neat. I didn't really expect much from it either, but it's actually not that bad. I have to give credit where credit's due. Even if it might sound silly to put a Garfield horror game on B. Amanda the Adventurer 2 will also go on B, though I think I will put that maybe... Oh god, do I put it before Shinkansen or after? Definitely goes before The Last Monday, but I don't know where. I'll think about that for a little bit. It was a good game. I feel like this is the thing that I always say about every single game. This is how I start. It was a good game, but Amanda the Adventurer 1 was definitely better, in my opinion. I will compare sequels to their prequels. Still good, though. I really like the concept. I love having the puzzles. I love having the videotapes. It's like clues and kind of like tying into the world. It's not bad by any means. I just did not enjoy it as much. The puzzles were quite confusing sometimes. You didn't really get that much in terms of an explanation or like hints. The very first puzzle that you had to do with the library books and you had to scan them, I was lost. I needed Ryan to come help me because I could not figure it out and I felt so stupid. And that was the very first puzzle in the game. You really need to ease into the difficulty. And I just felt that way about some of the puzzles. They were a little bit confuddling to me. I didn't really have that issue with the first one as far as I can remember. But still solid. Home Safety Hotline will go on C. Again, it's a good game, but I think part of the reason why it's a little bit lower on my list is because of the circumstances surrounding me playing it. I streamed it, and the game has a lot of reading. You have to read almost everything in that game. It was just a little bit too much for me. I think if I'd played it on my own, I didn't feel like I had to read it to other people, like out loud, I probably would have enjoyed it more. Because I really like the concept of like having the puzzles, people calling, be like, oh, I'm seeing signs of this and this is happening, and then you have to figure out what kind of entity it is. Like that's cool. I like that as a fun little puzzle kind of thing. Like I love that game mechanic. It was not as scary as I expected also. I thought it was gonna be a bit spookier, which is totally on me, you know, like my expectations, but I was just kind of like, oh, it's goofy. This entire tier list is obviously my opinion. It's not like a objective grade. Rankings and reviews are never gonna be objective. Poppy Playtime Chapter 3. I'm putting that on a B. Oh, that rhymed! That's beautiful. I don't really know where on this list I want to put it. I think I want to put it before Shinkansen 0, because it is a very solid game, but there's always a but. Somewhere in the world, there's always a nice juicy but. It was annoying to me sometimes. I remember that much. As always, you can figure it out while watching my YouTube video on the game. Ayo, on my channel. Let's go, baby. Every single one of these are on my channel, I think. Not every single one, but almost. If they're not on my YouTube channel, they're on my Twitch. So just saying. That's why it's mostly on a B and not an A. I do like that they took the game in a darker direction because I'm not the biggest fan of horror games that are catering to kids. It's just not for me at all. Poppy Playtime especially, because it always felt like it was kind of like a cash grab for the kids to buy plushies. So the fact that they're taking it in a more mature direction, I like. Good chapter, aside from all the annoying stuff that happened. Nightmare Cart. Oh, the game that Nightmare Cart was. I'm putting Nightmare Cart on A. Nightmare Cart isn't even really a horror game. I'm still gonna count it because I want to count it. I love Nightmare Cart. Nightmare Cart was really, really fun. I don't know if I want to put it before or after Finding Frankie, though. Probably after. If you don't know what Nightmare Cart is, it's Bloodborne Cart. Someone took the entire game of Bloodborne and turned it into a Mario Kart type of game, but they changed the names and the models a little bit so it wouldn't be copyright infringement. It's so fun. I had a whale of a time playing it. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. It's on A because it was fun, but it's not a groundbreaking kind of game. You know, I'm not just like, wow, Nightmare Cart. Damn, what a game that was. It's still based off of Bloodborne, which is like an amazing game, but it's not a fully original idea. Egg fried rice. You're going on C. Where on C though? Maybe I'll put it at the end just because it was a little bit shorter. I think I'm gonna put Home Safety Hotline above Decimate Drive there, and then Egg Fried Rice under Decimate Drive. Anyway, Egg Fried Rice. It's a goofy horror game. It's meant to be a little bit of a meme. Still pretty atmospheric though. I just got the good ending where you actually get your egg fried rice and you eat it without going back to the restaurant and getting tricked by the killer. I know it gets a lot spookier if you do that, but I know it happens. I don't think I would move it out of C even if I did get the spooky stuff. Solid game, just quite short. It's kind of a little bit of a meme game. You would think that the Garfield game is a meme game, and in a way it is because it's based off of Garfield. Same with Nightmare Cart, but they're like really solid games. Until Dawn Remaster. I am putting that on a very high A. It's a strong A. It's really between S and A. I feel like Until Dawn Remaster, Casting of Frank Stone, Silent Hill 2, Still Wakes the Deep, maybe? I feel like those are judged by me. Those are judged a little bit separately from all the other games in comparison to other games on that level, like Silent Hill Hill, for example, Until Dawn Remaster, I would put on an A. With a budget like this, I have a higher standard. Until Dawn is one of my favorite horror games of all time. There were some downsides with it. I don't think it was a perfect remaster. I think they changed some things that they shouldn't have changed. Like the soundtrack, for example, I understand that they probably had legal reasons for doing it, but I really wish they'd figure that out because the original soundtrack is so good. The color grading, you know, I love the sad blue. A lot of people think that the blue to the original game was kind of boring. It looks a lot more lively now. It wasn't that bad. Like, I still think the colors in the remaster were good, but I really miss that signature blue. Even though they got rid of a lot of stuff, they also added stuff that I really, really liked, such as the good ending actually being good. It was not good in the original. It is good now. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna spoil it for people who are yet to play it. Silent Hill 2, I think we're putting that on E. I'm kidding. Obviously, that's an S tier. That goes far beyond Kinito Pet. I want to reiterate that I don't think Silent Hill 2 and Kinito Pet are on the same level, but in terms of indie horror games, Kinito Pet is an S. It's a very, very good game made by one person, I believe. I think it's only one person. Silent Hill 2, there's probably debate whether or not it's an indie game because Bloober is indie, but Konami is obviously backing Silent Hill 2. So I wouldn't say that Silent Hill 2 is an indie. I don't really think that they're on the same level necessarily, but I think Kinito Pet is a great indie horror and Silent Hill 2 is obviously a great overall horror. It was really fun to play. It did feel a little bit clunky at times in terms of combat, but I can forgive it because the rest of the game was just really, really good. The atmosphere was amazing and I don't really have much more to say about it. Fears to Fathom, Woodbury Getaway. I'm putting that on a B. I was really debating whether or not to put it on a B or a C, mostly because I don't think it's the best Fears to Fathom game, but it was pretty creepy. Very scary being the only girl in a sea of men. Very realistic. I didn't like it. Where on the list do I put it? Let's go with that for now. Anyway, Fears to Fathom games always have great atmosphere. They always put me so on edge. I don't think it was the best Fears to Fathom game I've played. It was pretty good though. I did not love the ending in terms of confusion. I didn't know where I was supposed to go. I don't know if it was just a me problem when you're supposed to hide from the bad guy and then run and hide elsewhere. And I just did not know where I was supposed to go. That kind of dragged it down though, because I feel like it's been a lot more obvious in the other games. Pretty decent otherwise, I suppose. Casting of Frank Stone. You're going on A, baby. You're going above Finding Frankie and Nightmare Cart. Supermassive Games. Same developer of the original Until Dawn and the casting of Frank Stone. Love their games. The casting of Frank Stone really felt like it was made for me because again, I love Supermassive games and I love is a strong word, but I enjoyed Dead by Daylight. Like the characters, like the story. I thought it was really, really interesting. The gameplay was fun. The ending, because I've played Dead by Daylight for years, I know what was happening, and so it was really cool to me. But I understand why people would not rank it as high as I have. For me, it's pretty high up because it's just a combination of two things that I really, really enjoy. Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit. We're putting that on A, above Finding Frankie and Nightmare Cart, but under Until Dawn and Casting of Frank Stone. I am biased. It was really, really good. I don't really have any downsides aside from the checkpoints being not so great. I love the art style, the pixel art style. So cool. Works so well with FNAF. Really good game. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. Content warning is another one that I'm a little bit on the fence about. I want to put it between B and C. I'm gonna put it on a lower B. Mostly because it was very short-lived. Maybe other people play it a lot still. I only played it a few times in the very beginning and I haven't touched it since. But when I did play it, it was hilarious. I love the idea of being able to record yourself in the game and then seeing a collage of all of those clips at the end. It's really clever. I don't know. It's really, really cool. If it was still popular right now, you know, like if I was still playing it, I would probably put it higher because it is very fun. It's just the fact that it was so short-lived that it's so low down, but it is a really solid game. Like, it's so fun still. Yeah, I'm gonna put it a little bit higher. Do I? It can stay there for now. Silent Hill, The Short Message. You are going on C. As far as Silent Hill games go, not the best. As far as games in general go, pretty solid. I loved the enemy design. It really stood out to me. Sakura Head. I did not love the writing. Not necessarily the overarching story, but just some of the lines that the main character says and stuff like that. I was just like cringing, like, oh god. Sometimes it was over-explained and sometimes it was under-explained. So it was kind of a weird balance of sometimes I was being told things that are already understood and sometimes I was not being told about things that I was was really confused about. So it's just like strange in that regard. Otherwise, not so bad. I'll probably put it above all these, actually. This feels better, I think. Garten of Banban 7. It's the only game that's going on E tier. And it's not going on F tier simply because it is playable. It's, oh god, it's sad. I know Garten of Banban has potential. I've repeated this a billion times throughout my Garten of Banban playthroughs. I've played every single chapter. They're all on my YouTube channel. It has hints of some pretty solid mechanics, but it falls short every single time. It feels disingenuous in a way. I can tell that you're capable of coming up with clever ideas, but then you don't put in enough effort to actually realize those. You release buggy products into the world because you want money. I really feel like it started out as a sort of cash grab, even though they're half trying, they're not really committing enough to make a game they're proud of. They're just putting it out there because it's ready to go without really caring about player experience. You need to be able to take criticism if you're a creator that's putting your stuff out there for people to consume, and you're not just doing it for fun. You're actively asking people for money. You need to listen to what people have to say. I'm not saying that every single piece of criticism that's coming your way is good, because gamers can definitely be wrong. However, I don't think it's great to just disregard every single piece of criticism that you're getting. It really frustrates me, and they're just settling for half-assed shit because, oh, it's done, let's put it out there, let's get money and call it a day. It has entertainment value, yeah, but not because it's a good game. I don't really trust the people who say, okay, Garten of Banban is actually good. I know we're memeing on it, but it's actually a good game. No, it's not. It's hard to make games. Believe me, I get it. And that is exactly why I'm frustrated, because they have the potential, but they're not doing as much as I can tell that they could. Sorry, this is not a Garten of Banban rants video. That's how my neighbor goes on B. I don't really know where I want to put it, so we're just gonna leave it at the very end there for now. I like the concept. I think it's a fun kind of puzzle. I really enjoyed Papers, Please back when that released, and this is essentially Papers, Please, but a little bit of a horror version of it. It's not particularly spooky, but it's fun. It's quite challenging, actually. It sounds so straightforward and easy, but then there's the tiniest difference. You're like, damn, okay. I think it's fun when there's a bit of a challenge. I've not played the story mode. I think the story mode is out now, though, so I can't really speak for that. I've only played the whatever other mode there is where you just do it and there's no story involved. There's definitely games that have been creepier to me that are better in the horror aspects. I think it will still go above the last Monday, but at the same time, not really. We can leave it at the very end there for a while and we'll see how I feel about it later. Me-side. All the way up to S, baby. Me-side is a fantastic indie horror game. Yet again, I don't think it's necessarily on the same level as Silent Hill 2, but I don't really consider Silent Hill 2 to be an indie game. Indie horror games have a bunch of levels to it. You have like indie studios that still have like 30 employees, and then you have indie games that are made by one person. And I don't really think you can compare those two to one another. But Me-side, as far as indie horror games go, made by a small team, it's really, really good. I didn't see a single bug. The story was really interesting. I got super into it. It might be recency bias because this is the game on the list that I played last. It is definitely very recent in my memory, but I did enjoy it. At first, I was like, oh wow, anime girl. Obviously, people are gonna rate it high. I'm sure it's a good game, but I don't think it's overwhelmingly positive as it is on Steam. No, it's actually really good. It's very well made. I don't really know if I want to put it above Kinito or under Kinito. I think Me-side was probably the more polished game, but Kinito Pet was just fucking cool. Not that Me-side wasn't, but I love the whole fourth wall breaking. It can definitely get tacky too fast sometimes, but I think it was really, really well made in Kinito. It made me so unsettled. I think we're sticking with Kinito over Me-side, but Me-side is really, really good. They're very close together, I think. Who Wants to Be a Murderer? You're going on C. It's a pretty small game. It is fun for what it is, but it's not a super impressive game by any means. I like the idea. I enjoyed it while I was playing it, but it's not particularly long. There's a little bit of playability, but even that won't take you particularly long. I'm not the kind of person that judges games based off of their length. I feel like it sounds like that based off how I'm talking about some of these games. It's just like, oh, this game was too short. But it's just like a game that's 30 minutes long versus a game that's 4 hours long. I'm probably gonna enjoy the 4-hour one a little bit more because I have more time to get into a story, and it actually has a story that is written for you to get invested into, whereas 30 minutes is not really enough time to do that on the same level. And Who Wants to Be a Murderer was like 10, 15 on a first playthrough. It's not very long. I think the lower end of C. Still Awakes the Deep. This one is tough. I am putting it between S and A, ultimately going on A, I think, but it's fucking difficult for me because I love it. It's a great game. It's so good. It's one of my favorite games that I played last year. The voice acting and voice direction is unlike any other game I've ever played before. It was fucking, oh my god. I need to swear to stress how good I think this game was. I love Lovecraftian horror where you don't really know and ever really find out what the big bad is, and it's just some abstract danger kind of. Stuff like that is really, really cool if done well, and I think Still Awakes the Deep did it really well. However, I do remember there being a few bugs that were kind of annoying to deal with, and also I feel like it kind of dragged at the end as well. It kind of had the same issue that Alien Isolation did, where it was a little bit too long. It could have been cut down by a few hours. I don't know if I would say Still Wakes the Deep could have been cut down a few hours, but maybe like 1 hour. A lot of the end was just walking. It would have been nice to cut down on some of that. So that's why I'm putting it on A instead of S. It was a fantastic game, but some of it just dragged it down a little bit to me. It is on the higher end of A though. I don't know if I would rate it above Until Dawn. Until Dawn is higher only because it's like nostalgia for me. Again, it's one of my favorite horror games of all time. So it's kind of hard to go above it, but Still Wakes the Deep was just so good. They are very close together. That's the tier list, I guess. Actually, I'm changing that to playable. I'm still not sure about That's Not My Neighbor. I don't really know where to put it. I think I'm gonna put it above Last Monday at the very least. Maybe Fears to Fathom goes over content warning. I had like 2 different sessions with content warning and then I was done with it. Those 2 sessions were good sessions. Maybe I will put it like down there just because of that. I think I'm locking in on this. Should I put Lollipop Chainsaw in there just because I put Nightmare Cart? Once Human, would you count that as a horror game? Not necessarily, right? But it still has spooky enemies, but I wouldn't call it a horror game. But it's the same with Nightmare Cart. You know what? I'm gonna add them real quick just because. Once Human, I really enjoyed. However, it makes sense why they do that, but the fact that they reset their servers every like 4 weeks or 6 weeks, I can't remember how often it is, it makes me sad. I get why, but it makes me sad. I know you can save your blueprint, your house blueprint and all that stuff, but it still makes me sad. What about all my other progress with other stuff? But I think it is a fun game. It's one of those games that I return to every once in a while. I kind of like had a period where I played it a lot and then I didn't play it. Then I picked it up again for like a day and then I stopped playing it again, you know, kind of like that. I will put it on A, I think, just because I really love games like that. The house building is obviously my favorite part. You can place your house pretty much anywhere in the entire map. I'll probably put it above Nightmare Cart. I don't know if I'll put it above Finding Frankie. In terms of a horror game, I wouldn't say it's like super spooky because again, it only has horror elements, so necessarily it shouldn't really be part of the list, but because Nightmare Cart is there, I might as well. You can disregard these 2 from the list. Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, I think is so fun. It will also go on A. It'll probably go here. I just think it's a fun game. It's fun and goofy and I enjoy it and it's neat and it's hilarious, but in reality, these 3 games right here don't really need to be part of the tier list. This is where we're leaving it. This is what it is. This is the final tier list. Agree or disagree, feel free to tell me. Just be nice about it. Jazz hands.